So far, I have not had a makeup sponge fatality due to Kat, but it looks like she's interested, so I'm gonna have to hide him. Hey guys, it's V. So today I am doing a very long-awaited video. I mentioned this, I don't even remember how long ago that I wanted to do this video, but none of my sponges were ever clean on a filming day to where I could film this video. And all but one of my sponges today are clean. So I have got 15 beauty sponges here from different brands that I am going to compare and rate in terms of what I personally think is my least favorite and my very favorite sponges. So if you're into that, let's get into it. So the way I'm going to do this video is I'm going to start out with my least favorite sponge and I'm going to work my way up. So this is probably going to be very surprising because I know that a lot of big popular YouTubers have talked about how much they like this sponge and they may have gotten a good one, but I personally don't feel as though this sponge works for me at all and I am just not a fan of it, and that is the Morphe Flawless Blending Sponge. So this is after I tried to clean it. It was just not having the cleaning, and this one retails for $6.99. So I do have pretty much the whole spectrum of the blenders. I have some that are $12, I have some that are $20, I have some that are cheap like this, I have one that's like $5. So I have the whole end of the spectrum, and unfortunately this one is the sponge that I like using the least. It is just a lot more firm than all of my other sponges and it does not clean well. I use anything from like the Beauty Blender solid cleanser. I pretty much use solid cleansers to clean all of my sponges because that's just what works best for me, but this sponge is just not good cleaning wise, and it also really bleeds. It bleeds like bright orange color all over the sink when I try to clean it. So unfortunately this one is number 15. It is my least favorite sponge. Moving along to the next sponge on the spectrum. Again, this is another one that lots of other people really like, but I personally was not a big fan of this one from the get-go. And I just want to mention here that if these are your favorite sponges, if the ones that I personally don't like you love, that's totally fine. Everyone has different things about sponges that they like, and the ones that I have at the bottom are just ones that did not work out for me. So if you love them, continue to use them, continue to love them. But if you want my opinion on what I think, then that's what this is. So this is the Pure Contour Blending Sponge, and this one is a $12 sponge that they sell on the Pure website. I'm not sure if they sell it on Ulta as well. I think they might, but yes, it is $12 for this. I ordered it off of the Pure website because Kathleen Lights raved about this sponge, and so I was like, okay, I'll get it, I'll join it, I'll join in. But this one just was another one that was just not my favorite. I've had it for probably like 7 or 8 months at this point, I think. I'm not quite sure when I got it, but this one just gradually, as I started using it more, got harder and harder, and whenever I try to soak it in water, it just does not really like get much softer. I really like the shape of it. I love how it has this big flat edge on it. I really love that. Again, with the Morphe one, another thing I'm not a huge fan of is that this one doesn't get larger as well. So it kind of does, but not really. It just doesn't get squishy. And so this one, after I've cleaned it a couple of times, it really doesn't get super squishy. It also is not super easy to clean. These are all fresh from cleaning, and you will see that some of them look much cleaner than others. So yeah, this one personally, I'm just not a big fan of it. So it is number 14. By the way, I do want to mention here that I do have a V-Vibes event on this makeup look. So if you're interested in how I got it, then I will put that in the little eye up here for you guys, and I will also put it in the description box. The next thing is a sponge that I actually did a full review on. I compared it to the Ricky NYC sponge, which I actually don't have anymore, so I'm not going to include that one in this video, but I will say I don't have it anymore because I didn't like it, so we'll just leave it at that. But this one is the NYX Cosmetics Flawless Finish Blending Sponge, so I will link my first impression demo video of it up in the eye here for you guys if you want to watch that. It did work much better than the Ricky NYC one. This one retails for $8. I think you can get it on Ulta's website now, as well as NYX, and other retailers probably sell it as well, but I've had this one for quite some time. Probably, I don't know, maybe even a year. I've definitely had this for a year because I remember doing that video in my last apartment, I think. But yeah, so I personally, this one just does not last well. That's the reason that I'm not a big fan of it. Initially, when I first got it, it applied really, really well and I liked it a lot. But this one does not have good lastability once you clean it once or twice. Again, just like the pure one, I feel like these were made in the same place because like they're different colors, but they look exactly the same. So if you're gonna try one, try the NYX one rather than the pure one because it's $8 compared to $12. But I have tried to clean this one again multiple times and it just keeps getting harder and harder and harder, and it's just not as fluffy. It just doesn't have good lastability, so I just am not a fan of this one. It is number 13. I have 5 different types of beauty blenders that are going to be in this because every single different color of the beauty blender is technically for different purposes. So this was the first one that I got, and this is the white beauty blender. So this one is the Beauty Blender Pure. I ended up getting this off of Amazon and it was legit. It was from Beauty Blender, but it was on sale for $15 at the time. So I was like, well, I never wanted to spend $20 on a legit beauty blender. So I'm going to go ahead and get this one and try out the Beauty Blender phase, see how I feel about it. So this one is regularly $20. So the reason that I didn't like this one, first of all, this one is meant to be for skincare primarily, but I was using it for foundation just because I don't really have skincare that I would apply with a sponge. So that's just not personally something I would do. I don't know anyone that applies skincare with a sponge. Do you know anyone? I don't. But anyway, so I personally was not a fan of this because again, it's not very squishy in my opinion. When you compare it to a real beauty blender, it's just not the same texture, which is understandable because technically it's not for the same thing that a beauty blender is for. But when I would use this, first of all, the very first time that I went to clean this sponge, I gouged a huge chunk out of it, and my nails weren't very long at the time, and this one stains really, really badly. Like, you cannot get the dinginess out of this. So once you use it once, it will not be pure anymore. So this one is number 12. For those reasons, I just was not a fan of how this one applied. I felt like other sponges that are higher up in my little thing here work on my face much better. So I am not a big fan of the white beauty blender. Okay, so the next sponge that I have on here is the Sephora The Perfectionist Airbrush Sponge. So this one is so low on the spectrum strictly because of the shape of it for one. This one is a really good value for your money. I ended up getting this in a Sephora play box. It was a $12 value. Right now it's actually on sale for $5. So I'm not saying that I wouldn't recommend this sponge because I totally would, depending on what you want to use it for. I think that this sponge is really good for concealer because you've got these points on each side of it that are just really great for concealer. Like, I feel like this smaller point would be great for blending out your concealer initially under your eyes because it just gets into all the nooks and crannies. And then this bigger one would be great for baking because you can just bake that whole concealer under eye. You can even bake your contours. I don't do that personally, but you could bake your contours with it. I think it's a great little sponge for how much it costs, but this one also does not have super good lastability. I have had this one for quite some time now, but as you can see, I have a lot of sponges, so I cycle through my sponges. So it's not like I'm constantly using the same sponge for 6 months. So I don't remember when I got this one, but it has slowly gone a little bit downhill in terms of quality. So this one has just gotten a little bit more stiff as the days go on, and it's just gotten a little hard to clean. So that's the only reason that it is number 11. Okay, so as number 10, you guys are probably gonna be surprised with this one being so low on the spectrum, but I honestly feel like there are other sponges that are better, and that is the OG Beauty Blender. Yes, this is $20. You can get it at Sephora. I'm not sure where else you can get it. Actually, I know Beauty Blender sells it. They've got it on all kinds of retailers, but this is the OG Beauty Blender. So this is number 10 on my list. And the main reason that this is number 10 is number 1 for cost, because I don't feel like you need to pay $20 to get a good sponge. As you will see further down in my list of sponges that I like better than the Beauty Blender, there are sponges that you don't need to pay $20 for to get what a Beauty Blender can give you. I don't think that there is anything revolutionary about the texture of the Beauty Blender. Like, it's great. I'm not saying the Beauty Blender is a bad sponge. It's a wonderful sponge. That's why there are 5 other sponges that I have that are not as good as it. But personally, this one is just not not for me. It's not worth the money. So that's the only reason. Another reason that this one is lower is because it bleeds really, really badly, bright as pink when you wash it. So that's just another thing to look out for with the OG Beauty Blender, but it is on my list as number 10. Surprisingly, beating out the Beauty Blender is a sponge that I got off of Amazon, and this one is the Zenden Naturals Beauty Sponge, and it was $6.97 on Amazon. I talked about this in my most recent Amazon finds, so I can link that video up here for you guys. But I really like this sponge. I'm surprised that there are so many bad reviews. I think that it just depends on the seller that you get it from, because personally I have had no problems with this. It cleans amazingly. It's nice and big. It's actually bigger than a Beauty Blender, as you can see. Both of these are completely dry, and it's a little bit larger, which I love to cover more surface area when I'm blending out foundation. So yeah, I personally really like this. I think it's better than the Beauty Blender, and it's $6. That's just my personal opinion. I think that it gets just as fluffy, so that's what I think. That's why this is number 9. Now, to contradict what I just said, I do think that the Beauty Blender Pro, which is the black version of the Beauty Blender, is better than the original Beauty Blender. So it's a little bit higher on my list, but like I said, I still don't feel like you need to spend $20 on this. I ended up getting a set that had this one, and I think like a little mini micro one, which I will be talking about as well. But the only reason that I got a Beauty Blender in general was because it was in a set, so I got a big discount on it. So the Beauty Blender Pro is also $20, and it is number 8 strictly because I do like it, but it's just not worth the money to me. This one does not bleed though, so that's good. So I'm gonna kind of lump these together, even though they are technically different sponges for different kind of things, but they're also for the same kind of thing. So the first thing that I have as number 7 is going to be the Beauty Blender Micros, only because I feel like these are great. I love these. They expand really nicely, and they're so cute. These are $18, but you get 2 sponges, so technically only $9 a piece. They are so precious, and I feel like they work really nicely for blending out under eye concealer. The only thing is I feel like they're a little small. They're just a little bit too small for me. So the reason that the next sponge is number 6 is because it's a little bit larger, and that is the Beauty Blusher. I actually got this as a gift from Sam, but I love this little thing. This one retails for $16, so that is why it's going to be number 5 on my list, because I feel like in terms of what you're getting, I feel like this one is a better value than these ones are, because I feel like these for a lot of people are just too small. So I personally like the Beauty Blusher much better, and it can be used for a little bit more purposes. So this one I love for blending out under eye concealer. It's just perfect. It's the perfect size for this. It's perfect. So I love it for that. I also really love this if I was going to apply any kind of cream products. I don't personally use a lot of creams, but you know, Sephora Play and Ipsy have gotten me into a couple of different cream products, so I've been using it for that as well, and it blends out cream like blushes, contours, things like that really well. So I love this little sponge. I cherish it. It has held up very nicely. I've had it for quite a while now, and it cleans wonderfully. No shedding with this one either. Just love the size. So that is why this one is number 5. So this next one, I am really sad I could not put it higher up on the list, even though it is number 4. So it's pretty high on the list because it is very aesthetically pleasing. It is my favorite looking sponge out of the bunch. So if that means anything to you, if you just want a sponge because it's pretty, go with the Real Techniques Miracle Diamond Complexion Sponge. This one is beautiful. I ended up getting this one when it was on sale for $7, but it retails for $9.99 originally. I believe you can get it at Ulta. I will have all the sponges that I'm talking about listed below as well, just in case y'all want to get them through, you know, my description box. But yeah, so I really like this sponge. The one thing that I am not a big fan of with this sponge is it's kind of a weird shape. It's beautiful, but it's weird. So I really love how it has this nice point on it, but it is a little bit flimsy in terms of points. I feel like you just need a little bit fatter of a tip, you know. on this kind of thing when you're wanting to blend out concealer, but it's really great for getting like really into the inner corner of your eye. So for that it is good, and I love this sponge. It's beautiful. It cleans really well. I brought it with me on vacation because I just loved it that much. So that's why this one is number 4. We're creeping up to the top 3. I really like this one though. The next sponge I actually did a full demo and review on. It is the L'Oreal Infallible Blend Artist Foundation Blender, and it retails for $7.99. So let me tell you why I like this one way more than the Morphe sponge, which is the same sponge initially. They look pretty much exactly the same. Well, let me tell you, first thing is you can see with the L'Oreal sponge, it is slightly more pointed on that tip, and that is just very important in terms of getting your concealer. It's very important, and in terms of like, you know, making sure that your contour is crisp. I feel like that little tiny extra point really adds a little tiny extra point onto the sponge in terms of greatness. So that is a reason that I love it. This one has never ever bled on me when I've washed it. It's been great since day one. It's only $8, which is also great. I've seen this one at Walgreens, at Ulta, at all kinds of places. It's very accessible. So I just love this one. I think it's a great sponge. That's why it's number 3 on my list, and it gets really nice, big, and squishy, as you guys can see in that review that I did, which I can link in the little eye up there for you guys. I just loved this from the get-go, and it's worked great for me. It's got a nice big butt on it, so it's good for blending out foundation. I just really love it. And number 2, I have 2 sponges because they're technically the same thing, basically. One of them's just a bigger version, and I did a whole video comparing these 2 together, and that is the Real Techniques Miracle Complexion Sponge, which retails for $6.99, and the Body Sponge, which retails for $7.99. This is the only sponge I didn't clean prior to filming this video, because after cleaning 15 other sponges, I just wasn't ready to clean this massive thing. But I really love both of these sponges. That's why they are second runner-up for my favorite sponge. But you can see in my video where I compared the 2 of them that they are very similar. This one just gets the job done faster. So obviously it's bigger. If you wanted to use this on your body, sure, you could totally do that as well, but I use it on my face, and I can use this one way more times than any of my other sponges because it's so massive. There's so much area that you can use. You can use any part of this sponge. The only thing that's not good about this sponge is that it's very hard to blend concealer because it's so freakishly massive, but I love that, and I love the Miracle Complexion Sponge. That's why it is second runner-up. It's just a great sponge for only being $6.99. Again, you can get this at Walgreens, pretty much anywhere, to Ulta, Walmart. I've seen it. They sell this everywhere, so it's very easy to get, and it's just a great sponge. That's why it has been one of the favorites compared to the Beauty Blender since day one, because they did a great job with the texture, and it's just really great. This one's actually pretty new. I just recently bought another one of these, so that's the first sponge I have rebought. So if that means anything to you as to why this one is number 2, this one is the only one I've ever rebought. So that is it. Are you guys ready for my number 1 favorite sponge of all time? I will give you a hint. I've done a video on it before. I think it was my most recent sponge video, actually. And that is the EcoTools Total Perfecting Blender. Take a good look, take a gander at the gorgeousness of this green sponge. I love this thing. It is $5.99 to get this sponge by itself. The video that I did where it was in a duo, don't recommend. Buy this by itself. You don't need that other sponge. It's terrible in my opinion. This one by itself you can get for $5.99. They sell it on Ulta's website, and it also comes with a cute little stand to put it in so you can showcase its beauty and grace on your kitchen counter. Who does their makeup in the kitchen? On your bathroom counter. I love this sponge, and it hits the mark every single way that I can think of for it to hit the mark. I love the shape of it. It has one big flat side, one smaller flat side, one big old butt on the bottom of it, and then it comes to points on here for concealer. It works perfectly to blending concealer. It also works perfectly to blend concealer with the flat edge. You can really kind of spread it out all along your cheek if you want to. It gets in the nooks of the nose creases perfectly. It's amazing. The butt on it works perfectly in order to get all of your foundation blended out seamlessly. I've just never had a problem with this sponge. The only only tiny little thing with this sponge that I don't like is that the first time that I used it, I nicked it a couple of times. But my nails were really long at that point, so I'm gonna give it, you know, a little leeway in terms of that because my nails were pretty long and I have some thick claw nails. Like naturally my nails are very thick, so they kind of busted through this a little bit when I was doing my video on it. But this sponge being only $6, it is the best sponge in my opinion. I love this thing. I would recommend it to anyone who thinks that a beauty blender is the best sponge out there, because if you think that, you need to at least give this one a shot. I'm not saying you're gonna like it better, but I'm saying it's pretty likely that you will. So this one is my favorite, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you liked it. I'm so glad that I could share all of my favorite spongy sponges with you guys. And if you did like this video, be sure to show some love to the like button down there. Give it a share. That really helps my channel. And if you subscribe, you can be a member of my Muse family. And I love you guys so, so much. Thank y'all so much for watching, and I will see y'all in my next video. Bye guys!